Welcome. In this video, we're going to do an unboxing of the Sinister Motives Expansion for Marvel Champions, a card game. So down at the table, before we get into the unboxing, just wanted to say thank you to Fantasy Flight for sending me a copy of this game to highlight on the channel. Very much appreciated. And also a huge thank you to the fans of the channel making Fantasy Flight take notice of all the coverage I am doing for this game. So looking on the back here, I guess before we get too far in depth, if you are afraid of spoilers, I'll try to put timestamps down in the description below. I do plan on going over both the heroes, basically every single card, and skim through all the villains and campaign stuff. So timestamps will hopefully keep you from seeing stuff you don't want to see. So this giant size 265 card expansion sends you and your friends through a grueling gauntlet, battling a host of 10 iconic villains as you attempt to save the citizens of New York City. Sinister Motives features 5 all-new interconnected scenarios forging a legacy of fame and infamy that will challenge even the most skilled heroes. With so many evildoers rallied against you, can you survive the Sinister Motives? So let's go ahead and take a look inside, and we can see 4 of these are going to be Sandman, Dr. Octopus, Venom, and Mysterio, which leaves 6 left. So we assume we're going to see the Sinister 6 here in a bit. So open this up. We've got our rule book on top. And that is going to be, got a campaign log in the back, 21 pages here. So looking inside, we've gone over our villain cards, identity cards, our set symbol. See, keywords we've seen before: hinder, insight, patrol, permanent piercing, requirement for resources, that's going to be new. Card with a requirement keyword cannot be played unless each resource of the specified type is spent while paying for that card's cost. Setup, stalwart, steady, team up, villainous, and victory X. We've seen all those before. Victory displays out of play and an amplify icon. In the new mode of play, going over campaign mode rules, prohibited cards. So there are some that we can't use if we're going into the campaign mode. Let's see, campaign-specific cards, reputation track, which is going to be something new. Printable copies, hopefully will be showing up on Fantasy Flight's site soon. And that's what we were looking at on the back here. So reputation track, basically depending on how we do, our reputation can go up or down, and that's probably going to influence how some things interact with us. And then our campaign log. Let's see here. Then we're getting into... We think it's too hard, what we can do for an expert campaign. So persistent damage, so you carry that from one scenario to the next. Elimination and victory. Just letting you know if you're playing with teammates and someone gets eliminated, they don't go to the victory part. Deck customization restrictions. Once you start an expert campaign, cannot add, remove, or change aspect or basic cards in your deck. All right, and then we get into our story. And then jumping into our first scenario against the Sandman. And then our second scenario will be against Venom. Then we have Mysterio. Then the Sinister 6. And finishing up against Venom, Goblin. And the aftermath. Got an FAQ going over the pre-constructed starter decks. And then our campaign log. All right. Then we've got a flyer for the X-Men Mutant Insurrection dice rolling game and some Marvel books. And then all of our stacks of cards. So I'll go ahead and get those sorted out and we'll start going through those. All right, we're going to start off with our heroes, starting with Ghost Spider. So in our hero form, Thor to 1, attack for 2, 3, defense. Dizzying reflexes as a response after you resolve an interrupt or responsibility on an event. Ready Ghost Spider, limit once per phase. Hand size of 5, 10 health. Alter Ego, recovery of 3. Civilian, as an action, choose either shuffle ticket to the multiverse from your discard pile into your deck or ready George Stacy. Limit once per round. Hand size of 6 on this side. And over here, she is a web warrior. Then there are 15 cards for her stack. Got 3 ghost kicks, 2 calls to vent and attack. Hero response attack after Ghost Spider uses a basic power. Deal 6 damage to an enemy, max 1 per basic power use. Then we have 1 Parental Guidance, a 0-cost event. Alter Ego action. If George Stacy is in play, attach an event from your hand or discard pile face down to George Stacy. If he's not in play, search your deck and discard pile for him and add him to your hand. Then we have 3 Phantom Flips, a 2-cost event. Thwart Hero Response. Thwart, after Ghost Spider uses a basic power, remove 5 threat from the scheme, max 1 per basic power use. Then we have Pirouette and Punch, a 2-cost event. Skill card. Hero Interrupt. When a card is revealed from the encounter deck, deal damage to the villain equal to 1 more than the number of boost icons on that card. Cancel that card's when revealed effects. Very nice. Always like canceling those things. Then we have 2 Web Bindings, 2-cost event. Superpower has a requirement we need to spend mental for it. Hero Interrupt. When an enemy would activate, cancel that activation. The minion's activation was canceled this way. Deal 4 damage to that minion. Seems powerful. And we have George Stacy, a 1-cost support. Persona card. Events attached to George Stacy may be played as if they were in your hand. It's an action. Exhaust team. Attach 1 event from your hand face down here to a max of 3. Seen something similar to this with Miss Marvel. Then we have Ticket to the Multiverse, 3-cost upgrade. It's an item. It's an action. Remove Ticket to the Multiverse from the game. Discard your hand, shuffle your discard pile into your deck, draw up to your hand size, and ready each Ghost Spider card you control. And it gets us 2 wild resources also. Then we have 2 Web Bracelets, 2-cost upgrades. Item and tech. Hero Response. After you resolve an interrupt or responsibility on an event, exhaust this card and to draw 1 card, max 1 per event. So it seems like a pretty solid core 15 cards. And they have her with protection. So taking a look at those cards. 2-cost ally, Silk Cindy Moon, thwart 1, attack 1, 2 health, Web Warrior. Response, after you play Silk from your hand, if you control another Web Warrior card, search the encounter deck for a treachery and discard it. Nice. Spider-Man Miles Morales, so this is going to be a dead card if we're playing with that. 4-cost ally, thwart 1, attack for 2, 3 health, Web Warrior. Response, after you play Spider-Man from your hand, stun and confuse an enemy if you control at least 3 Web Warrior cards. 3-cost ally, Spider UK, Billy Braddock. Thwart 1, attack of 2 with 2 consequential damage, 5 health. Web Warrior has an interrupt. When he defends against an attack, deal damage to the attacking enemy equal to the number of Web Warrior cards you control. Then we have 3 Bait and Switches, a 1-cost event. It's a hero action. Thwart, the villain attacks you. Remove 4 threat from the main scheme. Then we've got 3 Jump Flips, 1-cost event. Defense, hero interrupt, defense. When you would take any amount of damage, prevent 2 of that damage. If you paid for this card using an energy resource, remove 2 threat from the main scheme. Then 3 Return the Favors, a 0-cost event. Attack, hero action, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a treachery. Reveal that treachery, deal 5 damage to the villain. And then 3 What Doesn't Kill Me, 2-cost event. Requirement is a physical resource. Hero action, heal 2 damage from your hero and ready your hero. Seems pretty good. Then moving on to our basic cards. 3-cost ally, Spider-Man, Hobby Brown. Thwart of 2, attack of 1, 2 consequential damage on the thwart. 3 health, Web Warrior. Play only if you control a Web Warrior card. It's an interrupt. When Spider-Man leaves play, discard the top 3 cards in the encounter deck. Deal damage to the villain equal to the number of boost icons discarded this way. Got an Across the Spider-Verse, max 1 per deck. 2-cost event, hero action, exhaust a Web Warrior card you control. Search your deck. Search your discard pile for a Web Warrior ally and put it into play, then choose a player. That player may spend 3 resources of any type to repeat this process. Young Love, 1-cost event. This is a team-up between Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. Max 1 per deck. It's an alter ego action. Heal 3 damage each from Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. And then, of course, we've got our Energy, Genius, and Strength. Then we have Web of Life and Destiny, 3-cost support. Location, Web Warrior. Ignore this card's resource cost if your identity has a Web Warrior trait. And a response, after Web Warrior ally leaves play, choose a player. That player draws a card. Seems pretty good there. Then we have 3 Plan Bs. 1-cost upgrade. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Hero action, exhaust Plan B and discard a random card from your hand. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. Then we have our obligation. A Worried Father. Give to the Gwen Stacy player. Search your deck, hand, discard pile, and play area for George Stacy and set him aside. Attach this obligation to him. It's an alter ego action. Exhaust Gwen Stacy and remove this obligation from the game and add George Stacy to your hand. Then for our Nemesis cards, Regenerative Research, Force Interrupt. When the villain phase begins, heal a damage from each enemy. Ouch. We've got the Lizard, Schema 1, attack 3/5 health. Brute Creature, Force Interrupt. When the villain phase begins, heal 1 damage from the Lizard. Then we have an Experimental Injection, an attachment. Attach to the minion with the most remaining hit points. If you cannot, this card gains Surge. Attached minion gains the creature trait and gets +4 hit points. Then we have 2 in Cold Blood, Treachery. When revealed, the Lizard attacks you. You cannot play events until after the attack resolves. No attack was made this way. This card gains Surge. So that is everything for Gwen Stacy, or Ghost Spider. So we'll go ahead and take a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales now. So he has a 2 for thwart, attack, and defense. Champion and Web Warrior. Venom Blast is a special, deal 2 damage to an enemy and stun that enemy. Spider Camouflage, special, gives Spider-Man a tough status card, confuse an enemy. Hand size of 5, hit points of 9. Alter Ego, recovery of 4, civilian. Response, after you change to this form, shuffle a Spider-Man card from your discard pile into your deck. Hand size of 6 on that side. Then we have 2 Arachnobatics. 1-cost event. It's an attack. Hero action, deal 2 damage to an enemy. That enemy has a stun status card, deal 3 additional damage to it. That enemy has a confused status card, deal 3 additional damage to it. Then we have 2 double lives, 1-cost event. Max 1 per round. As an action, change your form. If you paid for this card using a physical resource, ready your identity. Then we have 2 swing ins, a 2-cost event. Thwart, hero action, remove 4 threat from a scheme if you paid for this card using a mental resource. Resolve Spider-Man's Spider Camouflage ability, which is he gets a tough status and confuses an enemy. Then 3 web shots, 2-cost event. An attack, hero action, deal 4 damage to an enemy if you paid for this card using an energy resource. Resolve his Venom Blast ability. Then Gank Lee. Exhaust team, draw a card. If you are in hero form, choose and discard a card from your hand. A 2-cost support. Jefferson Davis, another 2-cost support. Alter ego action. Exhaust team, remove a threat from the scheme with the least threat. Power Within, 1-cost upgrade. Superpower, hero response. After your hero uses a basic power, discard Power Within, resolve his Venom Blast ability. Then Defense Mechanism, 1-cost upgrade. If your hero uses a basic power, discard Defense Mechanism, resolve Spider-Man's Spider Camouflage ability. Then he has 2 web shooters, gets 3 web counters, hero resource, exhausts the shooter, remove a web counter from it to generate a wild resource. So that's his base 15 cards. And they've got him with Justice. So we've got Monica Chang, a 3-cost ally, thwart 1, attack of 1, 2 health. Shield Agent, response, after she enters play, search your deck, hand a discard pile for a copy of Surveillance Team Support, and put it into play. Place a Snoop counter on each Surveillance Team you control. Spider-Woman Jessica Drew, Shield and Web Warrior, 3-cost ally, thwart 1, attack with 2 consequential damage. 3 health. Reduce the cost to play Spider-Woman by 1 for each confused enemy in play. Then we have 3 Homeland Interventions, 0-cost events. Shield and Tactic. As an action, exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control and choose a scheme. Remove 2 threat from that scheme for each card exhausted this way. So lots of shield stuff here. And he's just a champion and web warrior. Just wanted to check on that. So 3 global logistics, 0 cost event, shield tactic. As an action, exhaust 1 shield card you control. Look at the top 4 cards of a player deck or the encounter deck. Discard any number of those and put the others on top or bottom of that deck in any order. Then we have 3 field agents. 1 cost supports. Gets 3 backup counters. Hero interrupt. When a shield ally will take any amount of consequential damage, exhaust this and remove a backup counter from it to prevent 1 of that damage. That's interesting. And then we have 2 surveillance teams, 2 call supports, gets 3 snoop counters. As an action, exhaust it and remove a snoop counter from it to remove a threat from a scheme. Then we have our basic cards. Agent 13, Sharon Carter, 4 cost ally, thwart a 2, attack of 1, 4 health, a shield, and a spy. Response: after Agent 13 attacks or thwarts, choose a shield support to ready that support. Dum Dum Dugan, 5 cost ally with 5 health, 4 to 3, attack of 3, 3 consequential damage up here, and 2 on his attack. Shield: as an interrupt, when you use one of Dum Dum Dugan's basic powers, exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control. For each card exhausted this way, Dum Dum Dugan gets +1 to that power for this use. That's pretty interesting. Then we have Ghost Spider, which will be a dead card if we're teaming up over here. 3 cost ally, thwart a 1, attack of 2, 3 health. Web Warrior, play only if you control a Web Warrior card. It's an interrupt: when Ghost Spider leaves play, search your deck for an identity-specific event and add it to your hand. And then 3 cost ally, Spider-Man Peter Parker. 4 to 2, attack for 2, 3 health. Web Warrior, for requirement, takes 1 of each resource to play him. A response: after Spider-Man attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior character, ready that character. Then Young Love, we've seen that before. Alter ego action, team up with Gwen and Stacy, heal 3 damage each from them. Then we have our 3 resource cards. Then 3 government liaisons, 2 call supports, persona and shield. Hero action, exhaust this, play a shield card from your hand, reducing its resource cost by 1. Then we have the Sky Destroyer, 3 call support. So response: after you play a shield card, exhaust this, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So that's all his good cards. Then the not so good, Keeping Secrets is this obligation. Give to the Miles Morales player. You may flip to alter ego form and choose. Exhaust Miles, remove this card from the game. Or discard Gankley and Jefferson Davis from play. If neither was discarded this way, this card gains Surge, and discard this obligation. And we have our Nemesis card, starting with Tracking Prey. When revealed, if you are in alter ego form, place an acceleration token here. It comes in with 4. Then we've got the Prowler, Schema 1, attack for 2, 5 health. Stalwart, when revealed, if you're in alter ego form, give Prowler a tough status card. Then some Razor Claws, gives +2 to attack. Attach to the minion with the highest printed hit points. If you cannot, this card gains Surge. Attach minions' attacks gain Piercing. And then 2 Slice and Dice Treacheries. When revealed, Prowler attacks the player with the fewest remaining hit points, even if that player is in alter ego form. If that attack defeats a character or no attack was made this way, this card gains Surge. That is nasty, attacking you in alter ego form. Nothing good can come from that. All right. So then, on to our villains. All right, we'll start with Sandman. With his first version, Schema 1, attack of 2. Criminal, Sandblast, Forced Interrupt. Sandman attacks you. That attack deals indirect damage. If your identity takes any amount of damage from that attack, resolve the Surging Sands ability on city streets. So I'll go ahead and take a look at that. City streets environment, location, Surging Sands, special. Place 1 sand counter here. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck equal to the number of sand counters here. That seems bad. It's hero action. Exhaust the character you control. Remove sand counters from here equal to that character's attack. That's limited once per round per player. So that's going to force us to go through his encounter deck pretty quick. All right, so on the first form, he's got 16 health per player. Second form, Schema 1, attack of 3. And when revealed, resolve the Surging Sands ability, and he's got the same ability there, Forced Interrupt. When he attacks you, if your identity takes any damage, resolve the Surging Sands. 18 health per player on that form. Then on his third form, Schema 1, attack of 3. When revealed, place a sand counter on city streets, then resolve its Surging Sands ability. And same thing going on with his Forced Interrupt with the Sand Wave. Let me go back. Attack deals indirect damage on that one. Those two are the same. This is a little different. When he attacks you, that attack gains overkill. If your identity takes any amount of damage, resolve Surging Sands. 19 health per player on that one. So for our main scheme, it's just got the 1. Showing us our setup there. Coming in with Down to Earth. Searching counter deck for the city streets environment and put it into play. Place 4 sand counters on it. So it's starting with 4 on it right from the get-go. Then we're getting 2 threat per player from the get-go and then 1 per player as we progress. Goes through at 9 per player. Force response after an acceleration token is placed on the scheme, deal 3 indirect damage to the first player. Ouch. All right, so he's pretty nasty. So we've already seen the city streets. He's got his sand form here, attaching the Sandman. We would deal any amount of damage to Sandman. Discard this, resolve the Surging Sands. It's got some sand clones. Schema 1 attack is going to be dependent on sand counters. And when defeated, do that ability. Whole bunch of sand clones. Got a couple dirt traps. And some tidal sands. Sand slide, a sand storm, sand smash times 2. So that's the cards for the Sandman. Next up we have Venom. Schema 1, attack of 2. Toughness, Symbiote, Vengeance, Force Response. After you attack and damage Venom with a card you control, place 1 face down boost card on your identity. And 17 health per player. Version 2, Schema 2, attack of 2, toughness and steady. Revealed, searching counter deck and discard pile for the tooth and nail side scheme and put it into play. It's got Vengeance. After you attack and damage Venom with a card you control, place a face down boost on your identity. 18 health on that version per player. And the level 3, Schema 2, attack of 3, retaliate 1, steady and toughness. When revealed, place 2 face down boost cards on each identity. Retribution, force response. After you attack and damage Venom with the card you control, place a face down boost card on your identity. 2 face down boost cards instead if this is the first attack this turn. 20 health per player. Then for setup, it's coming in with the Down to Earth modular set. Setup, put the bell tower environment into play. Quiet side face up. And on the other side, 10 per player, so just 1 main scheme. Force Interrupt. When Venom activates against you, move each face down boost card from your identity to Venom. If this stage is completed, lose the game, and that's where it's starting with threat on it. The bell tower and environment. There are at least 3 per player chime counters here. Flip this card. Interrupt. When any amount of damage would be dealt to Venom by an attack, you may place that many chime counters here instead. Then on this side, the bell tower is ringing. Increase all damage Venom takes by 1. If there are no chime counters here, flip this card. Force Interrupt. When Venom's attack would deal any amount of damage to an identity, remove that many chime counters from here. For each chime counter removed this way, prevent 1 of that damage. Then he's got some attachments. Now we're angry. 2 of those. Guard the bell tower. Lashing out. Tooth and nail. 2 biting retorts, and 2 for whom the bell tolls. So that is everything for Venom. Next up, we have Mysterio. Schema 2, attack of 1. Criminal, Seeds of Fear, force response. To resolve a boost card during Mysterio's activation, place that card in your discard pile. It has the illusion trait and 15 health per player. Version 2, Schema 2, Attack of 2, Criminal. When revealed in player order, shuffle the top card of the encounter deck into each player's deck. And Creeping Fear, Force Response. After you resolve a boost card during Mysterio's activation, place that card on the bottom of your deck if it has the illusion trait, 17 health per player. Then the third version, Schema 2, Attack of 2, Criminal. When revealed, discard the top 5 cards of each player's deck. Bound by Fear, Force Response. After you resolve a boost card during Mysterio's activation, place that card on top of your deck if it has the illusion trait, 16 health per player. He's got 2 main schemes. So going over our setup here with Whispers of Paranoia. Setup, put a shifting apparition minion into play engaged with each player. Then the Maze of Mirrors, got his threshold there. Force Interrupt, when you would draw or discard an encounter card from your deck, deal it to yourself as a face-down encounter card, and then draw a card. Then the next version, when revealed, each player, or in player order, shuffle the top 2 cards of the encounter deck into each player's deck. And Edge of Reality, Force Interrupt, when you would draw or discard an encounter card from your deck, deal it to yourself as a face-down encounter card, then draw a card. And then the rest of his cards, it's got an attachment, Hallucination, giving him some nice attack. Then Masterful Mirage. Masterful Mirage again. Shifting Apparitions, which we'll be putting in play. Schema 1, Attack 1, and Guard. Several of those. And then Deja Vu. We've got 2 of those and 2 Fearmongers. All right, now going on to the Sinister Six. Dr. Octopus, Schema 2, Attack of 2, Activation Order 1. Force Response, after he attacks and damages you, place a threat on each scheme, move the active counter to the next villain in the activation order. When defeated, remove 4 threat from a side scheme, 7 threat if there are no other villains in play. Hit points of 8. Then we have Electro, Schema 2, Attack of 1. Second in order. After Electro attacks and damages you, discard the top 7 cards of your deck. Move the active counter to the next villain in the activation order. When defeated, remove 4 threat from a scheme, 7 if he's the last one. Health of 8. Hobgoblin, Schema 2, Attack of 1. Third in the order. After he attacks and damages you, take 2 indirect damage. Move the counter. When defeated, remove 4 threat from a scheme, 7 if he's the last, 9 health on him. Craven the Hunter, Scheme of 1, Attack of 2, 4th in the order. After he attacks and damages you, choose and discard a support or upgrade you control. Move the active counter to the next villain. When defeated, remove 4 threat from a side scheme, 9 health. Then we've got the Scorpion, Scheme of 0, Attack of 3, 5th in the order. After he attacks and damages you, stun a character you control. Move the active counter to the next villain. When defeated, remove 4 threat from a scheme, 7 if he's the last one, hit points of 10. And lastly, we've got Vulture, Schema 1, Attack of 2, 7 health, 6 in the order. After he attacks and damages you, choose and discard a card from your hand. Move the active counter to the next villain in the order. And when defeated, remove 4 threat or 7 threat from a side scheme. All right, so we've got, looks like 3, oh, that's side scheme, 2 of our main schemes. So just showing what we're getting in here, getting some guerrilla tactics for setup. Choose X villains at random, where X is 1 more than the number of players. Put those villains into play. Place the active counter on the villain with the lowest activation order value and set the other villains aside. Put the light at the end of the side scheme into play. Trap side face up. So we've got a threshold of 8 per player. Ambush, special. Choose a set aside villain at random. Put that villain into play and place the active counter on it. In expert mode, place 2 threat on light at the end. Force interrupt. The villain would activate. If no villain is in play, resolve this card's ambush ability. Continue that activation. And then the Sinister Beatdown. When revealed, choose a set-aside villain at random. Put that villain into play and place the active counter on it. If no villain was put into play this way, or this is expert mode, deal the first player face down encounter card. And then Ambush, special. Choose a set-aside villain at random. Put that villain into play and place the active counter on it. In expert mode, we're placing 2 more threat on light at the end. Force interrupt when a villain would activate. If no villains in, do the ambush ability on this card. And then the light at the end. So trap side and chase side. Permanent, hinder, 10 per player. Players cannot win unless they escape. Force interrupt when the last threat is removed from this scheme. Resolve the ambush ability on the main scheme. Flip this card. Let's see, permanent, hinder, 10 per player. The players cannot win unless they escape. Force interrupt when the last threat is removed from this scheme. The players escape and win the game. All right, so the rest of the cards here. Got some attachments, heightened morale. 2 of those, then taunting presence. 2 of those, then team leader. Take 1 for the team. Brute force barricade. Frequent flyers, high fashion, robotic enhancements, partnership of pain. Got 3 of those, and then looks like 3 surprise cards. So that's everything for the Sinister 6. Then lastly, we've got Venom Goblin. First version, scheme of 2, attack of 2. He's steady. Infests a city as a force response after he activates against you. Move the glider counter to the main scheme with the least threat. Choose either place 2 threat on that scheme or resolve a special ability. 16 health per player. Second version, scheme of 2, attack of 3, study and toughness. When revealed, deal 2 face down and counter cards to each player. Claiming the throne, force response after he activates against you. Move the glider counter to the main scheme with the least threat to resolve its special ability. 18 health per player. Then his third version, scheme of 3, attack of 3. Retaliate 1, stalwart, and toughness. When revealed, deal 3 face down and counter cards to each player. Reign of Terror. Force response after Venom Goblin activates against you. Move the glider counter to the main scheme with the least threat. Place a threat on that scheme and resolve its special ability. 21 health per player. Then we've got several main schemes here in A, B, C, and D. So we are starting here with the content, Goblin Gear. Set up, put the Lower Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, and Upper Manhattan main schemes into play. Place a glider counter on Midtown, flip this card and set it aside. So this is an environment, skies over New York. Player cards that affect the main scheme can apply to any main scheme. Counter cards that affect the main scheme only apply to the scheme with the glider on it. Each main scheme accumulates threat each round according to its acceleration value and any acceleration tokens on that scheme. So we've got Lower Manhattan, and it looks like they're going to turn into environments at certain points. So place a threat on each scheme. If symbiote environment is in play, place an additional threat on the scheme. And it's in Lower Manhattan side. Move the glider counter and each acceleration token from here to the main scheme with the least threat. Midtown, special, take 2 indirect damage. If symbiote environment is in play, take an additional indirect damage. And when revealed, move the glider counter and each acceleration token from here to the main scheme with the least threat. And then Upper Manhattan, discard a card from your hand. If symbiote environment is in play, discard the top 4 cards of your deck. And with this one, move the glider and counter and each acceleration token from here to the main scheme with the least threat. There are at least 2 symbiote environments in play. The players lose the game. All right, then moving on to his cards. We are 1. Then we have some symbiotic berserkers, symbiotic monstrosities, a thrall, several of those. Then some festering mass, a joyride, and 2 spreading panics. So that is it for the villains. So for the modular sets, we have symbiotic strength, sinister assault, personal nightmare, Osborne tech, City in Chaos, Down to Earth. Whispers of Paranoia. And Guerrilla Tactics. And some Goblin Gear. So just taking a quick look at these. Got 6 cards in this one. So the Goblin Gear, got a glider, some bombs, more bombs, and yet even more bombs. It's got a limitless supply and some remote navigation. For our City in Chaos, 5 cards, Panic in the Streets. Got a Rhino, Calling in Favors, and 2 Now or Nevers. Down to Earth, 7 of those, Common Criminal. 3 of those, Friends and Family. Volunteer Work. Threat or Menace. And some loose ends. Then for Whispers of Paranoia, 5 cards there. Delusion of Collusion. And then Manipulated Mind, Old Grudge, and Analysis Paralysis. Then moving on to Guerrilla Tactics, 7 cards, Life-Size Decoy, 2 of those, Coordinated Effort, Hidden in the Shadow, Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, and then From Every Direction, 2 of those. Then for our Osborne Tech, got some arm cannons, ionic boots, kinetic armor, some neo-carbon scales, spiked gauntlet, and a tracking display. Then Personal Nightmare, 7 of those cards, Induced Panic, Evil Doppelganger, The Fool's Paradise, Weakness from Within, Deepest Fears. Then our Sinister Assault cards, Doc Ock, Electro, Hobgoblin, Craven the Hunter, Scorpion, and Vulture. And our Symbiotic Strength, 9 of these cards, Improvised Weapons, Violent Tendencies, Webbed Up, Enraged Symbiote, Seen those before, Swinging Assault, and an Unstable Sentience. Then we've got a few basic cards in this set. We've got Venom, Eddie Brock, 4-cost ally, 4/2, attack of 3, 6 health. The Symbiote. Response, after you reveal an encounter card, deal damage to Venom. Deal damage to an enemy equal to the number of icons in that card's boost area. But getting an extra encounter card seems bad. Then we have 4 Symbiote suits. 4-cost upgrade, Symbiote, max 1 per deck. Your identity gets +1 to each of its basic powers, +1 hand size, and +10 hit points. But an extra encounter card every turn. Seems worth it, right? What could go wrong with that? All right, and finally, our campaign cards. Got some environments, Public Outcry, standard mode only on this side, and then on expert mode. And then we have, let me see here, a smear campaign, back alley burglary, cat in a tree, a henchman heist, off the rails, rubble rescue, and snitches get stitches. Then we have some upgrades that are dual-sided, some compact darts, impact dampening suit, some laser goggles, propulsion gauntlet, a retinal display, shock knuckles, wave bracers, and some wrist and navigator. So that is everything in the Sinister Motives expansion for Marvel Champions the card game. As always, hope you enjoyed this unboxing. So please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.